In 1999, I was at my mother-in-law's house, and I rubbed my neck, felt 2 nodules. So I went down into Charles Hematology, and my cancer did come back. And so I went through a series of chemotherapies. At the end of February, my sister-in-law called me and asked me if I had the faith to be healed. And I told her I really didn't know. And so she sent me a little booklet called God's Creative Power for Healing by Charles Capps. I read the book every day, and all during my bone marrow transplant in March. And at the end of March, my bone marrow transplant failed, and I actually spread my cancer down my back and up my groin. And so I continued to take more chemotherapy, which was a new drug called Rituxan. And I took the drug for a month, and then I had only one thing left. It was an allogeneic transplant. And it was in 1999. It was only 10% chance you're going to survive, 9% chance you'll die. And I wasn't worried about going through the cancer. Going through the treatments. I knew I'd get through it. I started questioning it because of what the Lord had been doing in my life. So I got on my knees right after the end of my bone marrow transplant and just asked the Lord, am I supposed to do this transplant, or am I not supposed to do the transplant? And I prayed and prayed, and nothing happens. I go in the shower on a Tuesday morning, and I go in the hospital on Wednesday, and Thursday or Friday is my bone marrow transplant, the allogeneic transplant. And as I'm taking a shower, these thoughts start flying through my head: book, bicycle. And I thought, what in the world? I'm thinking of this transplant for my life for 2 years. What in the world is a book and a bicycle? And I get out and I told my mother, I said, something weird's really going on. And all morning it felt like I was going back and forth. Should I do this or should I not? Or around between 11 and 12, I just said, no, I'm not. And as soon as I said that, I knew I wasn't supposed to do the transplant. I called Dr. Giles Jr. and told him I had to see him right away. I went down there, and I told him I was not supposed to do this transplant. And he said, why? What do you mean you're not supposed to do the transplant? Who told you that? And I told him what the Lord had done in my life. And he says, Dan, you'll understand. You've got cancer in your stomach, intestines, chest, neck, back, groin, around every organ. And I had the large cell, fast-growing lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's. And he said to me, straight to my face, my eye, that if I didn't take this transplant, I would die. And he said you'd have 3 months, but he couldn't count on that. Could be a month, could be 6 weeks. He really couldn't tell me that. But I would not live over 3 months. When he told me that, I knew I was going to be okay, and I started smiling. He got livid because we're very close. And I thank the world to him, and I would do anything in the world for him. But at that time, I knew the Lord had taken over. And so I left, and I went down the elevator screaming. I got in the car and screamed all the way home. I got home, dumped every pill down the toilet, and I knew I was going to be okay. And I started training to go right away on my bicycle. 3 months later, they couldn't find any cancer in my body. 10 months from the time he told me I was going to die, across the United States, from Santa Monica, California to Folly Beach, South Carolina, for cancer. And all the way through that ride, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I didn't have the strength. I wasn't prepared for it because I've been sick so long. And Lord just guided me through it. And well, cry. My goal for this bike ride is to save a life. My goal is to save hundreds and thousands of lives. My goal is to let people know out there what you can do when you do get cancer through Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and what they can do for you, and how to end blood cancers. And financially, what's going to end it is prayers, and number one is donations. Donations are the largest thing we can do. 50% of your family is going to get cancer. 50% of your family is going to get cancer. You can look at your children, and your wife, and look down the line, 50% of those are going to get cancer. So the best thing to do now to prevent that is to give and donate to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help end blood cancers. And if everybody does this, then we can fight the worst disease that's been taking over. And this is what I'm going to fight for.